a lovely man. That woman, she's a lovely woman. And they start to see some qualities that are inside, more than the job, more than the accomplishments, more than the words, but they see something just coming out in actions, and it comes out from your actions. So how do we practice love? And I love the Bible because the Bible has the answer to all of life's questions. And so in 1 Corinthians 13, everybody know that's the love chapter. We're going to look at the things that we should practice, that when it comes a part of our DNA, we'll become lovely people, because this is what I want. If I want someone who is lovely and someone who is loving, I have to first be becoming lovely and loving. Let me repeat that. If I want someone who is lovely and loving, I have to first be becoming loving and then lovely. So in there are two parts of speech. There's a verb and a noun. The loving is some acting, some action. And the lovely is the noun, is what happens after the action. You see, what we really want is somebody who is the noun and the action flows out of the noun. But in order for you to become the noun, you got to start first with the action. You got to first start with the verb before the verb becomes the noun. All right, so you guys ponder that for a second. That's deep thought number 2 for today. And so, if you want to prepare yourself for that future relationship, right? Because if you want somebody's love, you got to prepare, right? If you want to prepare yourself for that future relationship, every conversation, every interaction, whether it's with your mama, your papa, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your dog, you practice these things. And so 1 Corinthians 13 tells us some things in just three verses, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 verses, a whole lot about what we should practice. And what I love about it is I'm going to kind of split up the verses a little bit, but you can just read it. It's all in there. It gives a list of, these are the things that if you're practicing, you need to stop. And it gives you a list of, if you ain't doing these things, you need to start. And so we're going to start with the list of what love is not. Love is not envious. Some versions say jealous. Love does not envy. It is literally being happy for somebody because of just what's happening to them. It's not trying to say, well, you know what happened to me too. They tell you, I got a promotion. Well, 2 weeks ago, I got a promotion too. How was your promotion? Well, mine was bigger than yours. Yeah, it's none of that. If somebody say, I got a promotion, he's like, really? I'm so happy for you. And you're genuinely happy for them, and you ask them questions, and you like, man, let's go celebrate, without telling people about your thing that was just better than their thing that they're telling you about. And I could go on and on and on in examples, and as I was thinking about this, I remember there was a friend of mine. I still consider this person a friend. And I was telling them about something bad that happened to me. It's just kind of a misfortune. And the person's response shocked me. It still kind of shakes me to the core when I think about it. The person says, they laughed a little bit. And I'm like, why are you laughing? And they said, well, I'm glad to know that bad things happen to you too. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, I'll be the first one to tell you that the Lord has blessed me tremendously. I'd be the first one to tell you that. But I don't think I could really say that to somebody. Love doesn't do that. I didn't feel love that day. See, love is not envious. Love is just happy for somebody who is in the place where they need to be. Love is not jealous. And we're going to talk about that jealousy in a second. But another thing that love is not proud. Love is not proud. It's not arrogant. It's not thinking of yourself more highly than somebody else. And by the way, remember I tell you about this, that when you practice it with everybody that you meet, every interaction that you meet, you become lovely. You become that person. That the person that you're looking for is looking for. So usually, if a guy is really proud, it shows up in like, you want me. God's gift to woman. I got it like that. And if you're a girl, you're like, there's a song back in the day by a group called In Vogue. I like the song. The song goes, the men all pause when I walk into the room. And there's a part in there she says, because I know I be looking good. Love is not proud. It's not proud. It's appreciative for what you have, and you're happy for it, but it's not proud. So, and then love does not boast. It's not boastful. Right? Whereas arrogance is thinking it inside your head. Boastful is verbalizing it out of your mouth and in your actions. And so, when a girl knows that she looks good and she's all stuck up and all of that, she's acting like she's all that, and as they would say back in the day, and a bag of chips. And you look at her and he's like, man, she looks good. And, I made some bad decisions in my past. Thank the Lord that He changed me. I went out with a girl at that one time because I didn't really care how she kind of was, because I was just kind of happy to be going out with her because I wasn't tall. It was kind of dark, but I wasn't handsome. That lasted, again, another freebie. Man, my girl left me on the dance floor for another dude. I tapped her on the shoulder and says, I'm going home. You coming? And she's like, wait, let this dance finish. She's probably still on the dance floor. That was the last time. Don't be a narcissist. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Another thing that love does not do, it's not dishonoring of others. It doesn't dishonor others. And love doesn't seek to cut down somebody else so that you can look good, or just cut somebody else down because you can. Love does not disrespect people. If you are with somebody and you see them disrespecting other people, and one of the things that really bothers me to the core is when I see people, like we're in a restaurant and the servers come over and people treat the servers like they're just garbage. It's a huge, huge turnoff to me, because I'm like, that's not love. They're people too, with families and kids and stuff like that. They go to the bathroom just like you. And you come across somebody that, listen, it's only a matter of time before that junk is going to turn on you. And if you're practicing that and you're like, I'm going to stop tomorrow, if you don't stop today, you're not going to stop tomorrow because you keep practicing. So if you're practicing that, stop practicing. Because that doesn't make you a lovely person. By the way, along with that, which is almost just as bad as complete ignoring somebody who may be a lower class than you, a socioeconomic class. A lot of times I see it happen. That somebody will come in the room and we're in a hotel and the maid comes in the room or something, like in a conference room, right? And they're bringing in the food. People just they don't even exist. They don't even exist. But a real lovely person says, good morning, how are you doing? How's your day going? They made them laugh and made them feel like a person, because those skills show up back again in your future. It just does. A couple more on the don't list. No, love is not self-seeking. Have you ever come across someone who won't do something without asking, why I got to do that? What's in it for me? You want me to help you do that? I get some money. This past week, I had some furniture delivered, and I had money in my pocket to give to the guy because I had a sofa that I was going to take downstairs. And I said to the guy, I said, hey, can you help me take the sofa downstairs? I was tipping him from before, and I was going to give him an extra tip. He's like, well, I don't know if I can do that. Let me go out to the truck and ask the other guy. I was thinking, well, you and I can take it downstairs, but whatever. He went out, he came back in. The guy said, I'll take it. We'll take it down for you. How much you going to pay? I was a little bit turned off by that. I mean, I was going to give him some money. It's one sofa. I'm like, well, I gave you $20. He's like, minimum of 40, man. I'm like, for one sofa? He's like, you want it downstairs? I'm like, not by you. I got Emilio and Matthew. They did it, and they didn't even know, man. They didn't even know they got 20. Love is... So it was funny because Matthew's like, Dad. I'm like, dude, you want to take this sofa downstairs for me. You really do. You really do. He's like, all right, man. Love does things without seeking what's in it for me. Love does things without seeking what's my angle. What's my angle? What's my personal benefit? Here's another thing that love is not. Two more. It's love is not easily angered. You know, I performed a wedding. I officiated a wedding for my nephew. He and his wife, they watch and listen to this thing so that, hey, Bradley and Krista, this is for you. So it was last year, and I was asking their story because, you know, when I'm doing a wedding ceremony, I like to keep it personalized, right? And I was asking their story, and I'm like, well, how did you guys get together? And Krista said, I had some tests that Bradley had to go through. I'm like, did he know? She goes, no, he didn't know till afterwards. I'm like, so what's one of the tests? She goes, I had an anger test. I'm like, really? How do you do the anger test? And she said, I took him out driving in traffic to see what would happen when traffic was bad and people were cutting him off, to see whether he was easily angered or not. And I said, how did he do it? She goes, well, we're here, aren't we? He didn't get flustered. He was just going with the flow. Look, folks, anybody who just blows off at the top, got to watch out for because they're going to turn around and do that to you. If you are the type of person who the least of the thing gets you just going crazy, you can't go with the flow. You can't sit down you can't chill like a lizard on a limb with the wind blowing, just chill. Think about that for a second. You don't want somebody, and you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that girl who's known for easily being angry because that junk is going to show back up and you're going to show it to your spouse later on. And the last one on this list is keeping records of wrong. Now, this one, I practice. I'm still practicing this. I'm being completely transparent, you guys. And Donna will tell you that. She goes, Gary remembers everything, but I've learned not to bring it up unless I get challenged and I remember. I'm like, oh, and that's not lovely. I just have this thing about numbers. Things just happen and I count them. They happen and I'm like, but Don and I, and this is true, that we have within our marriage, we say that whenever we deal with an argument, we can only deal with that argument. That issue right there at that point. You can't bring back up 50 other references because that's irrelevant for this argument because that was resolved already. That's a pass. We're dealing with this. And boy, when you can remember stuff, it's hard. It's hard. It's straight up hard. But I practice it. I practice it because love does not keep record of wrongs. So, you may ask a question. There's another song. I want to know what love is. I'm going to tell you what love is. Here's what love is. Love is patient. Love is patient. If you want to be lovely and loving and practice loving, you got to practice being patient. Love really encourages the other person. Dudes, if you are going out with a girl and you've taken out to the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth date, and you're like, girl, what do we have? Let's define this. Usually it's the other way around. It's usually the ladies saying to the men, what do we have? Let's define this relationship. But let me go the other way because the first one is the men. I'm going to keep it real. I'll keep it real. You go on 3 dates and you try to kiss her goodnight. And she's like, I'm not ready for this. Love is patient. If you love her, there'll be no pressure involved. It's like, we cool, babe. It's not like, well, we cool. It's like, your attitude shouldn't change. And guys, that's like really hard for us to do, right? Because we're like reward and goal. We're going to talk about another week. Men are just goal and reward focused, And so that's not loving. If you're pressuring somebody to do something, or somebody's pressuring you to do something, that's not being loving, and that's not lovely. I'm going to spend a couple moments on this, right? And the list is long, but I really wanted to break it down for you, and then we'll close, on what love is and what love is not. Because when you get this and you practice this, and I want everybody in here, whether you're married or not, to practice this day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, for the rest of your lives. So I got to spend a few moments on it. This one, love is kind. Another way of saying love is kind is love is considerate. Folks, let me tell you, if you see somebody working and somebody doing stuff outside, don't just walk by them and pretend like you don't seem like the Good Samaritan, the priest. Go and offer some help. You see some lady taking out her groceries to the car and she's struggling with it. Go and offer some help. You see, whatever you do, you see your mom washing dishes. Go offer some help. Because you think about, man, she had a tough day at work. I was chilling all day. Because, let me tell you, when you do this, there's someday some girl going to be looking at him like, man, look how that man treats his mama. That's how he's going to treat me. And you don't do this, you're not going to be considerate. You got to actively put your mind in thinking, man, you see, I am not the kind of guy that believes that chivalry is dead, because chivalry is a really, really considerate thing to do. And sometimes guys are like, well, I got to open the door. She can open the door herself. She's stronger than me. Because it demonstrates kindness. It demonstrates being considerate. And by the way, I'm not dropping any words to anybody because, people like, it's funny. When I come to church and I preach, people's like, Pastor, you were preaching to me. And I think, well, because, if you have that issue going on, but I'm not really preaching to anybody, but I'm preaching to everybody, including myself. All right, so, love, next one, love rejoices in the truth. Love rejoices in the truth. When somebody tells you something and proactively asks you for forgiveness, forgive them. Forgive them. Be happy that they told you the truth. Because love says, man, I am so happy that you told me the truth. And it doesn't dwell on the wrong. You got to fix the wrong. You got to do the things necessary to ensure that doesn't happen again in some way, shape, or form. But love does not dwell on the wrong. Love dwells on the truth that came out and what we're going to do next, moving forward. Love always protects. Love is always protective. The original language says that this protective is protective of the character of the other person. If somebody loves you, they're going to protect the character of the person they love. In other words, if they have an argument with that person, that argument is not going to go out into the world and telling everybody that, hey, look, my wife or my husband did stuff. That's not love. Love's like, I am protecting the integrity of this individual because I love them. I get information all the time on people in here, and I know that because I love people in here, I gotta protect the integrity of people in here. I can't go out and tell people about stuff because love always protects. Always protects. If somebody wrongs you, you go one-on-one and you deal with it. You don't go 1-on-50 and tell the whole world. Here's 2. How to do them together. Love is always trusting. Love is always hopeful. You know, the original language, the way these words read, it's almost like that trust, it's almost like a religious faith. It's saying, I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt. Almost like a religious faith. I believe in them. And some people say, well, isn't that stupid? And I'm like, well, maybe, but it's smart. Because if you're always doubting, that relationship will never prosper. If you cannot take somebody at their word, and you can't take anybody at their word, you need to start looking at yourself, because that becomes the common denominator, is you. And I'm sensitive to the fact that some of you in here, your past may not cause you to want to trust anybody. And so you got to develop a new past. Remember I kind of talked about that? So your past, and somebody hurt you really badly, and you're like, I'm never going to get hurt again. Well, not everybody is alike. Not everybody you're going to meet in the future. So start to practice the habit of trusting in little and building that over time, so you get some history and it becomes part of your DNA to start trusting again, because love is always trusting. Love is always hopeful. Like they mess up says, I'm hoping that we learn from it and we're moving forward. But love always perseveres. Love is always persevering. Love will, when you love somebody and the times are tough, love sticks with it. And you're like, we're going to work through this. We're going to work through this. And it doesn't start with the other person doing that. It starts with you saying, man, we're going to work this out. And it doesn't start with a person that you are romantically involved with. It starts with your friendships. And you like, your friend does something to hurt you. You don't like, well, that's it. Total unfriend, like block, unlike, unfriend. Love requires you not to be a quitter. If you believe in something, you work through the issues. It doesn't just happen like, I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home. As a little kid, playing marbles, and then, I don't like what's going on. I give me my marbles. Shoot. Go home. Love always perseveres. And folks, I want to tell you that this stuff is not natural. The pattern of the world is love is the left column and love is not the right column. And it requires practice. It requires being deliberate. It requires you to actively do this in every situation. And when you do this, you become, because you're practicing loving. When you're practicing loving, you become lovely. You become lovely. And so in order for you to be Mr. Right, in order for you to find Mr. Right and find Ms. Right, you have to first become Mr. Right and Ms. Right. You have to love. And when you love and you are lovely, when you're lovely, you can give love. And when you give love, that makes you becoming loving. And that's truly when you can find Mr. and Ms. Right. So I know as I'm wrapping up, some of you guys may be thinking and like, oh, this is great. I need to practice living this out. But how does that help me find my soulmate? All right, that's all good and well, but I'm still lonely. You can tell I listen to a lot of songs because these songs come back to my head. There was a song that I used to listen to back in the day called Lonely Won't Leave Me Alone. And I'm still lonely because lonely won't leave me alone. How do I find my Mr. Right and my Miss Right? How do I find this one? How does that prevent me from getting the wrong one and ending up in one of those marriages? How does that help me? How does it help me get out of not getting a marriage that has that all the drama and all that unhappiness? And it does take two people, but how do I find the one? Because I want to be the one, and I need another person that takes two people. And I love the Bible. Because here's what the Bible says. Come back to my first question, which is, how do I know God's will for my life? How do I find the one for my life? Remember this verse? Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you conform and you metamorphosize, here's what happens. The same verse. It's not even like I'm taking it out of context or anything. Here's that when you do that, here's what happens. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. So when that person shows up on the scene, you don't have to guess anymore. You'll be able to test and approve. You'll be able to see it and like, isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? And God's will, I told you before, is just simply God's desire. And, this is controversial what I'm going to say. I don't believe that there's only one right person, but I certainly believe that there are much better choices and much worse choices and some people who are not God's will, right? Some people can fit the criteria, but there are some things that don't bring out the best in you. And so there are better choices, but you'll be able to test and prove what God's will is. But not just anybody that will work, but his pleasing and perfect will. The best of the best of the best. And that's how you find Mr. Right and Ms. Right and avoid Mr. Wrong and Miss Wrong. We invite the worship team to come to the platform. And this mind renewing thing is tough, right? But God says that you can try and do it. You can try and do it on your own. You can practice it, and of course you're going to become better because these are life principles as much as they are spiritual principles. And by life principles opposed to spiritual principles, I'll kind of explain that in a second as the music team come. See, a life principle is that something you just practice. A spiritual principle is enabled by the Holy Spirit to help you live that life principle out. And so in order to you to live these principles out, you need God's Spirit in your life. And God tells us that in Galatians 5:22. And I'm only going to all this. He says that when you ask God to come into your life, his Spirit comes inside of you. And it produces a kind of fruit. And a fruit is a very complex fruit that it produces. But one of the characteristics of that fruit is love. So the fruit of the Spirit is love. And that's what I want for you today. I want you to have God's Spirit of love evidence in your lives so you can live this out. Let's just pray. With your heads bowed, and the music is going to be playing here. And I just want to ask you that if you never ask God to put his Spirit into your life, that today you'll say, God, I have made it about so many other things else. But right here, right now, when I think about it, I want to come to the heart. I want you to fill my heart where it's all about you and all about pleasing you. God, please take control of my life. And you can just say it in your mind. Please take control of my life. And I give it all to you. In Jesus' name, amen.